Hello everybody, welcome back to this final installment of Creative Coffee Breaks. In this YouTube series, I have been bringing you real-time art tutorials to show you just how much you can accomplish with very small amounts of time, like 30 minutes or less. And for our final installment, I'm filming this as we head into the Christmas season. And I know how hard it is to stay creative throughout the busyness of the holidays. So I thought I would bring you a project that can help you stay creative even when time is really hard to come by. So what we're going to do is actually, we've got a twofer here. I'm going to show you how to make two little tiny sketchbooks or journals that you can slip in a pocket and carry with you and get some creativity or writing in when you're busy throughout the holidays. So we'll make a little zine and we'll make an accordion book. So let's get started. All right, let's talk about supplies for today's Creative Coffee Break. So I'm going to show you two different ways to make a zine, these small notebooks, and I have two different types of paper here. So I have a drawing paper that's a gray toned drawing paper, and this is fairly thin. It's similar to printer paper. These I think fold up really easily, so if you're not going to use any watercolor or anything, drawing paper is great. And then I also have a sheet of fairly thin watercolor paper. This is Canson XL, and it's pretty thin and flexible, and I've tried this before, and this will absolutely fold up into a zine, so that's a good option. Then in order to actually make the zine, the only other things that we need are maybe a pencil if we want to mark out some measurements, scissors, a ruler. For the first type I'm going to show you, you actually don't even need a ruler, but for the second type, for the accordion style, you do need a ruler. And I have some watercolor style paints here, brushes and water, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in a minute. So pretty simple, we don't need much. Let's get right to it. All right, I've got my coffee, I've got my supplies, and I'm ready to go here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is actually optional. You don't have to do this step, but I'm going to paint some random color and texture onto my watercolor paper. And I'm using my Derwent Inktense pans for this. You could use any kind of watercolor, would be fine. I like the Inktense for this because once they're dry, they won't reactivate, but it doesn't really matter. Any kind of transparent color would work here. And I've chosen some winter colors. So I'm going to be using ultramarine, a darker blue that I forget what name they've given it here, a plum color, and a turquoise. So I'm sticking with this kind of cool blue wintry pattern and not trying to make anything at all on this paper, just putting the color, letting them mix on the page, letting them move around and blend to just make some random texture and background here. This can be done really quickly. You want to try not to overthink it and not to overblend it. You'll see what the purpose of this is when we move on to our next step of turning this into a little accordion book. So just have a little fun with it, move the paint around, let your imagination run free, do whatever feels intuitive. And here I've decided to add a little Payne's Gray to have a little extra darker color. I liked kind of darkening the corners. It is good if you're going to do this step to really paint all the way up to the edge of the page. It just makes for a nicer end result when we fold the paper. I think actually that color Inktense calls bright blue. So I think maybe I had bright blue and ultramarine from that top set. I don't have the swatches in front of me right now. For most of my creative coffee breaks, I did try to record the video and audio all together. For this one, I ran into some technical difficulties. So this is actually a re-recording of the process of painting the paper. In my original recording, I had some problems with light and recorded the whole thing only to discover that you were not going to be able to see any of it. So this is a re-recording, and I'm adding the narration after. And here I'm adding a little bit of sparkle. So these are also Derwent paints. They're metallic watercolors, and this is ice blue. And I know on the camera you can't tell that it is sparkly, but in fact it is sparkly on the page. And it just adds just a little touch of shimmer and something extra to what is otherwise just a sort of messy, streaky page of color. I really like metallic watercolors when I'm doing things like making greeting cards and stuff. If you've never played with them, they are really fun. All right, so now we have to let this dry completely. And while it dries completely, we will turn to our drawing paper and folding the zine. All right, so now I have my drawing paper, and I'm going to show you how this actually turns into a small book made of a single piece of paper. All right, for this, all we need to do is fold the paper very carefully. I'm just wiping up some of the splashes from my painting step so I don't get paint on this piece of paper, which is not watercolor paper. And what we're going to do here, first of all, is fold it very carefully, aligning the edges, folding it on the long side. And we just want to fold it as neatly as possible and make a really good crease. The better you align the paper when you fold it, the better your end product is going to be. It can even be really helpful if you have like a corner that you can align the paper into and fold the paper into. All right, so we've creased that. Now we're going to do the short end same way. So we will have folded the page to make like 4 quadrants. And again, the better we align it, the better our end result is going to be. And we want a really nice crease. So we can just fold it back and forth until we have it just right. Okay, for the next step, we're going to fold each side into the middle crease, and again align it as carefully and perfectly as we can right into that crease. Okay, now we'll repeat with the other side. And you can see that we have our paper here. We can fold up the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to make one cut along that crease just up to the fold there. And now you can see that our paper sort of accordions and folds down. And then we just do a little magical fold there, and we have ended up with a tiny book with several interior spreads and a front and back. And because I've already played around with this before, I actually have another one that I made for the first recording of this video where I did put some a design on the cover just to show you that one of the reasons I like the gray drawing paper is you can take with you a black pen and a white pen, or this is a white charcoal pencil, and just work in 3 values. So the paper gives you the mid value, and then you have the black and the white, and it makes a super fun little sketchbook to take with you on the go. Okay, I'm back. This paper is completely dry, and I have taken out my scoring board. It's exactly what it says. It's kind of like a cutting mat, but it has grooves where the measurements are. And I bought this when I was doing a lot of bookbinding because it really helps me fold things nice and neat and straight and saves me some steps. So I'm using that and a little scoring tool. You don't need one of these. You can absolutely just use a ruler. And because I'm using 9 by 12 paper, the math is actually really easy. On the short side of the paper, we want to divide this by 3. And because my paper is 9 inches across the short side, I'm just going to have, 3 and 6, and then I will have 3 pieces. So you can actually just use a ruler and mark each side, and then use the ruler to fold a nice straight line. But I have a scoring mat, so I'm going to use it. And I find it a little easier to stay in the grooves if I don't have the pattern side up. Interestingly, even with the scoring mat, I find it can actually be sort of tricky to stay in the groove with thick paper. So I'm just going to go nice and slow. And actually, partway through, I'll turn the paper around because it's easier, somehow easier closer to the barrier there. Yeah, see, I'm already losing it. All right, I'll just go that far. And we want to take our time because the straighter we fold the paper, the better our zine will be. It won't be all like wobbly. And for the other side of this, the long side, the math is a lot easier. So no matter what paper you have, you actually don't have to do any math. Okay. All right, so I've got a good groove on that side. Keep a good groove on this side. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. And just like the other paper, I'm gonna just fold it back and forth a little bit. There we go. This is the watercolor paper, so obviously it takes a little bit more force. All right. Now on the long side, we're going to divide it by 4. And again, this is 12 inches. So if I do it again in 3s, I'm going to end up with a nice square book. So that's what I'm going to do. And actually, if you're not using some kind of scoring mat, you can actually repeat the exact same thing we did with our other book for the long side, which is you can just fold it in half and in half again. So, this part can be simple, but again, I have a scoring mat, so why not? Why not use the thing I have? Uh-oh. And this little scoring mat thing I just picked up on Amazon. It is pretty cheap if you do a lot of like paper crafts where you're folding things. It's not a bad little investment. If you make a lot of cards or things like that. And certainly if you like to make sketchbooks and zines, it's pretty useful. All right, so I'm gonna do my folding again. I'm not gonna fold it all the directions this time, but I'm just gonna give it an initial fold. All right, so you can see how we now have this kind of accordion. And we'll grab our scissors. And this time around, we're gonna cut this line through 3 boxes, stopping at this seam. And then we're gonna cut 3 boxes the other way. So just wanna take our time cutting, really try hard to stay on the seam. Okay, so again, just leaving the last one attached. And then repeat. And this will fold very cleverly into an accordion. All right. So now I've got my flaps. And when I fold this, I actually want the first side to not be showing the pattern. You'll see why in a minute. So we fold the whole first edge and then fold it backwards. And then we kind of keep going, alternating backwards. Just keep folding it up. And now we've got a nice tidy little square here. And when I flip through the square, I have an accordion book. And I have kept so you can see it kind of has these little flaps here. Some people like to glue those so that it stays accordion shaped. You could absolutely do that. You could just use a little glue stick in there, and then it won't they won't come apart like that, but it doesn't bother me. And the pattern is on the inside, so what I can do as I'm filling this sketchbook, I can kind of work with the designs that are randomly on here, and they look a lot more random now than when I was painting them. Whoop. And of course, I want to paint the cover too. So we'll do that. Just kind of clip it open and get my paints back out. And just throw a little splash of those same colors on here. Why not, right? All right, there's my brush. Get all my stuff back out. Okay. And just sticking with those same colors. I really love that plum color. I'm gonna kind of keep the same. I was using a real diagonal motion, so we'll keep that. And I love the way these colors bleed into each other. Keep some of that. A little touch of that turquoise. My little accent color here. And what else? Oh, I used the dark blue, sort of the Payne's gray here. Just put a little of that in. And I'm leaving a white space because maybe I'll want to like put a title for my sketchbook there. And of course, I had some sparkles inside. Why not have some sparkles on the front too? Now I just have to let that dry, and I will have 2 pocket sketchbooks that I can throw in my bag with just minimal supplies. They take up no space at all, and they mean I have no excuse to miss a day of my creative practice, even at this busy time of year. All right, well, I'm going to be taking a little break from YouTube videos for the holidays, and I wish you and your family a great holiday season as well. I hope you find little ways like this to stay creative throughout the holidays, and I will see you in 2026.